I'm glad to see so many people here to recognize and celebrate the life of Jimmy Layton Duke. In his humility, he never thought there would be many people here, and I always laughed when he said that, because I knew better. So thank you all for coming to pay homage to one of the world's great guys. Dad was born in San Antonio on December 17, 1930. He was the son of Bernice Banks and Walter Evans Duke. His dad died young, and he moved with his mother to Houston in his teens. And that tall, handsome man found his bliss in a whirlwind courtship with Dorothy Tuthill. They were married in 1958, and it lasted 54 years. He was a devoted dad to his two sons, me, my brother George, and he never forgot his two daughters, Debbie and Kathy. Dad worked for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company for over 35 years as a telephone repairman and a test desk technician. But he's not defined by what he did. He's defined by what he was. He was a longtime member of Bethel Baptist Church in Houston, and he is fondly remembered as Daddy Duke by a great number of people he worked with as youth in the church. A lot of those people are here today, and I'm really glad they're here. They also knew Dad as a sincere ear for life's concerns and triumphs. He drove the church bus, which we called the Bethel Bullet, on numerous trips around Texas into Glorieta, New Mexico, Silverton, Colorado, Ridgecrest, North Carolina. Dad was a great driver, so no one ever worried about road or weather conditions that Dad was driving. And now that I think of it, I don't think he ever had a wreck of any kind in his life, so he has me beat there too. He will always be remembered for his great sense of humor on those trips, often taking part in practical jokes and impromptu tall tales of his early career as a sidekick of Pancho Villa and Buffalo Bill. I remember some guys jumping him one day and shaving a stripe around his legs about where his boots would come, and so he'd be reminded of that every day as his hair grew back, and I'm sure it itched something fierce. But he took it all in his usual laughter and smiles, and that's the guy that I'll always remember. He was always able to make me laugh. Even into my 40s, he could still put me to the floor threatening to tickle me. To the young people of Bethel, he was a trusted friend, a funny older brother, and a surrogate father. I believe that his fame will live on. Dad loved animals. As a teenager, he had a horse named Champ and a collection of over 100 live turtles. Among the animals we had around, George and I were privileged to grow up with, were a succession of dachshunds and poodles. Only one cat, though. Hundreds of gallons of fish, hamsters, rabbits, an owl, a squirrel, a king snake, a flock of doves, 2 monkeys, and his hummingbirds. I'm pretty sure he and Mom considered a goat once. Paradoxically, he also enjoyed hunting white-tailed deer in the Texas Hill Country, which he approached with profound respect, a legacy of his half-American Uncle James from Hunt, Texas. The default channel on his TV was Animal Planet, but he didn't care much for Shark Week. As a young adult, Dad enjoyed water skiing, and we often went on skiing trips around the Channelview area. He could slalom and I couldn't. Some of my best memories of Dad are from fishing and camping trips on Galveston Island. I remember once the tide came up unexpectedly, and Dad had to swim out and bring the boat back in. In those days, it was okay to drive on the beach, and another of my favorite memories is Dad driving his 57 Champagne 57 Chevy. Seemed like 100 miles an hour down the beach. It was just those little things that you remember. Later on, Dad took up cooking as a hobby, and his chili is going to be another one of the standards that I'm going to have to try to live up to. He loved the Tex-Mex food at Pancho's. He loved Fig Newtons, tapioca pudding with pineapple, Roy Rogers and John Wayne movies, and the gospel music of Elvis Presley. He was a member of the Masonic Lodge. Now, Will Rogers once said that a stranger is just a friend I haven't met yet. But it really could have been Dad that said that. In 1966, we went to California on vacation. Now, Dad drove relentlessly, non-stop, as a rule. But we stopped at a museum out in the middle of the desert, a place called Apple Valley. And I was wandering around looking at stuff, and Dad was off down the way talking to some old guy. And I didn't think anything about it. And I was checking out a Jeep named Nellie Bell for a while, and Dad was still chatting away with this old dude. So I was gawking for a while at a reel-for-reel rearing stuffed horse named Trigger. Dad called me over. And it turned out that Dad had been talking to Roy Rogers himself for like 20 minutes. Just the kind of guy he was. He could talk to anybody about anything. On another of our trips, I remember that Dad fell in with a family and started to them, and we were kind of going the same way on our vacation, and we ended up kind of vacationing along with him for a couple of weeks. Dad just loved people. And as we all know, people loved him. He was an easy guy to love. Dad took on the care and feeding and training of my brother and me as deeply as if we had been his own flesh and blood. Dad was and is a sterling human example of love and commitment. I've often said that I couldn't have had a better stepdad if my birth father had picked him out for me himself. And if I become half the man Jimmy Duke was, I'll be twice the man I am now. He was the last of the good guys. He was my hero. Rest in peace, Dad.